last time on Exploring the Local Life, we were just ringing in the new year. It was just me and Nadia. I'm Jessica, and today on Exploring the Local Life, we're actually going to talk about how to RV with your significant other. Robert and I have been on the road since October of 2015, and we have been doing so with our 2 children in a 26-foot travel trailer. Now, let me just tell you that this space can get really, really small depending on the weather, depending on how much we're traveling, and that definitely affects our relationships, and it especially affects the relationship between a husband and a wife. Now, if you're not married, but you're traveling with somebody that you share a romantic relationship with, this is going to apply to you. So don't think it's only married people, but this could apply to you as well. So in living in this tiny space, you find that you really don't have anywhere to kind of deal with your emotions. If you end up getting into a fight with your significant other, what does that look like in an RV? In a house or in an apartment or most other dwellings, there's extra room, there's space. You can kind of leave the area for a little while, let the other person cool off, and then come back and kind of, smooth things over. But in an RV, where are you going to go? There's the living space, there's the bathroom, there's the master bedroom. Chances are your significant other is going to need use of that space as well. There isn't the den to go to. There isn't all this, feet and feet of space between you. So how do you handle that? Well, even though there isn't a lot of space in the RV, you have to somehow create that space. Maybe somebody goes outside, maybe somebody goes out and does groceries, or maybe they go out and go watch a movie, maybe they go on a hike by themselves. You just got to make that space to be able to kind of get through those emotions. And keep in mind that might take a little bit longer to resolve those things in the RV, but they will definitely need to be resolved and handled quickly because, again, you don't have that distance. You don't have, generally speaking, that space where somebody is leaving for the day for work or something, or you're leaving for work and, you've got 8 or so hours apart to then kind of, dissipate some of those emotions. You're there all the time together. So you really have to work with the other person, lots of communication, and definitely allow for that time and space that's needed to get through that. Now, if you're going to be out with your significant other or your husband and wife, whoever it may be, and you also have children, that kind of compounds the issue even more because even when it comes time to come back together and have these conversations, these tough conversations, where are you going to have them? Your kids are right there in the living room sitting next to you while you're having the conversations. So you have to find creative ways to communicate in a way that might be either appropriate for your children to hear so that they, I don't think it's unhealthy for your kids to hear you having some of these conversations where you, are open with one another and you share this. I think it's important if your children are going to have these types of relationships, they see their mother and father or, whatever your family dynamics are, getting through challenges. I think that's a healthy thing. So that way they know that it's possible to do so in their own relationships and they become adults. But finding the way to do that in a way that's appropriate is probably the hardest thing. And if you can't do that, you might want to sit outside. Of course, you have neighbors. So you have to, consider that. Or, if you have a separate vehicle, just sit in the vehicle and have the conversation in there. Come up with different ways to have whatever level of privacy you need to be able to get through that patch together. And again, I can't stress open communication and really being open with the person that you are with to help smooth things over, to help get everybody on the same page at least, or to at least know where everybody stands. So that way, hopefully, you can move forward in whatever direction that needs to be. Speaking of privacy that you need to be in this type of relationship, there's all that romance stuff. And, I think some of this applies whether or not you have kids or not. RVs are small. Travel trailers are not the sturdiest things. There is some shaking. So there is less privacy overall, and also, insulation with sound, there just really isn't that much. So you have to accommodate for that. And then if you have kids with you or other people in the RV with you, that, you know, makes it even more interesting to do. Definitely having an air on, having maybe some sort of noise machine on helps. Choosing times when everyone's asleep helps, but, you know, you have to work through these things. It's not just as easy as, you know, going upstairs to your bedroom and, you know, having all this insulation between you and other people around you so no one knows what's going on, or just, you know, different life schedules that allow for a lot more private time between a couple. So even in this tiny space, you definitely have to make allowances for people to have their own lives, their own interests, their own everything. When you're in a house, I mean, that still applies, but it's a lot easier, again, to do or help that person explore who they are and have their own things, and for you to have your own thing as well. You know, if you have like an extra bedroom, that can be an office, that could be the art room, you know, that could be the exercise room. You know, there's all these different spaces to be and separate and to explore your own things that you like. Once you're in the RV, again, there aren't all those different spaces, so you have to make allowances for it. Either, you know, have an area of the RV that is absolutely, even if it's smaller, you know, set aside for that person. When I went out to Full-Time Freedom Week, the live event, there was a small gathering of folks, and we got to take RV tours. And something that I, you know, did notice was there were these spaces. There were a couple ladies that like to do quilting, and they had their sewing machines and they had their quilts and they did their stuff. And, you know, they had to make special allowances in the RV to take up some space to allow for that. There wasn't a separate room for that. So you have to think about these things when you are going with somebody else, thinking about what their needs are, thinking about your needs are, and to make sure that whatever type of RV you get or however everything gets set up, that those are respected. And, you know, if you along the way discover, you know, that those aren't being met, or that you have like a newfound thing that you really want to do, you know, sharing that with your significant other and, you know, communicating again, and seeing how that can be incorporated into your RV life, into your RV space. If your, you know, significant other likes to go hiking and things like that, you know, obviously there's a lot more opportunities when you are RVing to do that, but how much space do they need as well for that personal space? You know, like maybe they want to go alone, maybe they want to go with the whole family. You know, making allowances for these personal needs and self-care are very important. Even more so, I would say, when you are living in such a small space, because you are in each other's faces all the time, and things can get very real and raw and sometimes hard if you don't make allowances for that or aren't open to the idea of that. And, you know, that if you have children, that gets even more complicated. They're going to have their own ideas and hobbies and things that they like, and making allowances for that for them is very important. I used to have an office space, and I took that office space and made it into kind of not an office space so much anymore. I opened it up to Nadia to have a space to create her art. She loves painting all the time and doing creative play, and there just wasn't space for it. She would try to do it at the table that we had in our dinette, but, you know, Danny would be there with his computer he loves being on the computer, he loves coding, he loves playing games. That's like his thing, like he just loves it. So, you know, to allow him to be able to do that, we couldn't have her with all her art and paper and paints and all stuff next to a computer or next to a tablet. You know, or even when we were eating, we had to kind of separate that out. So we gave her a space for that, and it's a space that she can paint at, she can write, and she could also play with her toys in a creative way without necessarily having to put everything away like right away. She can leave some of that out. If the artwork takes a while to dry, if she's painting, you know, we have that time. What does that mean for me now that I've lost my workspace? I just work next to Daniel where he's doing his games or his coding, or I do it in the bedroom, or I do it outside. I did make that allowance for her because it was easier for me to adjust than for her as a 7-year-old to adjust, and I didn't want her to lose that passion for art, that passion for creative play, because I needed a desk space when I can create desk spaces a lot easier than her having an art kind of almost studio. That takes a lot more dedication and space than my activity. So I gave that up for her. Yes, and as an adult, I gave up a space for my daughter so that she could do something that would bring her life and bring her joy. And, you know, we all made allowances for that. We all agreed to. Everybody was in agreement for that. Something that's a little bit different, of course, with our family dynamic than maybe some of you, or maybe not, I don't know. You know, Robert commutes, so he's still working. So for like 4 days out of the week, he is not here. And then he comes home, and it actually is kind of difficult to kind of have him back at the end of those 4 days. Not because we're like, oh, you're back. No, we are absolutely thrilled to have him back. But all of a sudden there's another person. We went from a family of 3 to a family of 4, and you know, having to adjust to what his needs are after a very long, busy 4-day work week. He does 40 hours in that time, and then he often leaves directly from work and hops on a flight after working overnight. So he's very tired, he's hungry, he's traveled all day to get to us, and us making allowances for him for that, for the sacrifices he makes, to be able to incorporate him back into our lives and to kind of joyfully be a family again. So there's all these different complicated dynamics, especially for our family, but just consider that when you're looking at moving into an RV with another person, with children, all of those things that maybe were in the house, you know, they get compounded in an RV. And I say this because I've seen lots of families on the road that, you know, have really come together and become a stronger unit and grown together, but I've also seen other families that are then confronted with these things and realizing that, you know, they're just not able to deal with it. And families kind of, you know, I don't want to say falling apart, but breaking up. And, you know, I want to share that so that people aren't either feeling like they're in now and real thinking, oh my gosh, this is so much harder. I thought we were just going to be like, you know, going and seeing national parks and going to museums and, you know, playing the guitar by the fire and stuff. Yeah, there's that. But there's also all of these real emotional things that happen when you are living in such a small space together. Totally makes you confront a lot of things and find out things about yourself, some really amazing things, and then also some very like, oh, I didn't know I was capable of that. And finding ways of learning and growing from that, and hopefully, you know, overcoming those things, working on those things, and together as a unit, growing and overcoming and getting closer. But it doesn't always happen, and it's not always easy. And, you know, I have a friend, her name is Camila Tell. She is with More Than a Wheelin', and she also does a remote work school. You've probably seen me with her. You probably know who she is, heard me talk about her before. She does have a Facebook group that's called RVing the Emotional Journey. If I said that wrong, I will put it at the bottom here. And if you're on Facebook and you're kind of struggling with the emotions of it and these things that you weren't expecting, you might want to join her group and just go in there and kind of share. It's a safe group. And you'll find other people that are also struggling and hopefully get some advice. And, you know, I just wanted to share that with you guys because it's a real part of the RV life. It is a wonderful life, but there are also all these struggles and challenges that we all have to go through. And this is just one of them. And it's not one that I think a lot of people talk about. So I wanted to share it with you. I hope that this helped you, gave you some hope, some inspiration, and maybe it will help you consider RV living and for what it really is. It's not just seeing parks and doing all those things, but it goes a lot deeper. And there's a lot of emotions involved, good and bad. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Don't forget to hit the bell to subscribe, and hopefully I will see you next week. Stay tuned. We are going to be going to the Tampa RV show, and I plan on sharing a lot of coverage on RVs, and some of the latest and greatest things that are coming out for 2020. So thank you, and I will catch you later. Bye.